Everyone needs to know this about cheaters. There's something more to it than meets the eye. You see, we often think of cheaters as just people who break trust. But what if I told you that their actions reveal something deeper, something far more dangerous? Something that affects you. Cheating reveals insecurity, not love. That's the first truth everyone needs to understand. Now, I know that when you've been cheated on, it feels like a knife to the heart. You feel betrayed, hurt, confused. And the most painful part is the feeling of being worthless. You think to yourself, if I was enough, why did they do this? But let me tell you something, cheating is never about you, it's about the person who did it. When someone cheats, it's because they are running from something inside of them. They're not running from you, they're running from their own insecurities, fears, and lack of emotional maturity. They can't face their own flaws, and so they turn to someone else to fill that empty void. But the truth is, that void cannot be filled by another person. No matter how many people they bring into their lives, no matter how many times they hurt you, they'll never find peace until they face the truth about themselves. See, a cheater might tell you all sorts of lies, like it was a mistake or that it didn't mean anything. They'll try to shift the blame, saying you didn't do something right, that you didn't give them enough attention, or that you didn't understand them. But here's the hard truth. These are just excuses. The real reason they cheat is that they lack the emotional strength to be honest with themselves and with you. They don't have the courage to confront their own flaws, so they deflect it by placing the blame somewhere else, often on the people they hurt the most. But let's be real for a moment. This isn't love. Love is built on trust, respect, and open communication. It's about knowing your partner, feeling safe enough to be vulnerable with them, and trusting them enough to let your walls down. Love is not about using someone to fill the holes in your own soul, only to discard them when you're done. Love is about building each other up, not tearing each other down. So when someone cheats, it's not about the lack of love for you, it's about their lack of understanding of what true love is. It's about them not knowing how to be emotionally responsible. Imagine being someone who constantly feels insecure, unsure of who they are, and unable to manage their own emotions. Imagine always searching for external validation, trying to feel better about yourself by seeking attention from others. These people are living in a state of emotional poverty. They're looking for happiness in all the wrong places, and ultimately they end up hurting others in the process. But the thing is, no matter how much attention they get, no matter how many people they cheat with, it will never fill them up. That emptiness will always be there because it's an internal problem that no one else can solve for them. So what happens when they cheat? It's like they're trying to patch up a broken vase with a piece of tape. They think that if they just get a little bit of external validation, it'll fill that hole. But the truth is, they're just making the hole bigger. Their actions hurt others, and the consequences only reinforce their insecurity. They feel guilty, ashamed, and that guilt keeps them in a constant cycle of seeking distractions from their own pain. But deep down, they know what they did was wrong. And instead of facing their shame, they run from it by continuing their harmful behavior. And here's another hard truth. A cheater is never just betraying you. They're betraying themselves. They're betraying their own potential to be the person they were meant to be. Instead of growing, facing their challenges, and becoming the best version of themselves, they choose to hide behind lies, distractions, and false promises. They choose comfort over courage. They choose a temporary escape over long-term healing. And that's where their real weakness lies. They're too afraid to deal with their own reality, so they escape into these unhealthy patterns, hoping that it will bring them peace, but it never does. So I want you to think about this. When someone cheats, it's a cry for help, but not a cry for help directed at you. It's a cry for help from within themselves. They are struggling, and they may not even realize it. They are desperate for something they don't have, the strength to face their own issues, and in their weakness, they try to pull others down with them. They want to make you feel like it's your fault, like you weren't enough. But let me make this clear, it's never about you, it's always about them. They are struggling with their own emotional battles that have nothing to do with you. Now you might be asking yourself, why do they do this? Why would someone hurt the person they claim to love? And I get it, it's not easy to understand, but the answer is simple. Cheaters are people who have not learned to love themselves. They have not learned to set healthy boundaries, and they don't know how to respect themselves enough to build a healthy relationship. Instead of building trust, they tear it down, not because they want to hurt you, but because they haven't learned how to respect themselves. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that if you just loved harder, gave more, or did more, maybe the person wouldn't cheat. But that's a dangerous mindset. Your love for them isn't the problem. The problem lies in their inability to love themselves and to be emotionally responsible. And until they face their own issues, nothing will ever change. So you need to stop taking the blame for their actions. You need to stop thinking that their betrayal somehow reflects who you are or what you are worth. Their actions have nothing to do with your value, nothing. Now, I want to leave you with something important. You deserve more than someone who runs from their own flaws. You deserve someone who is strong enough to face their weaknesses, who is honest enough to communicate, and who is brave enough to build a future with you based on trust and respect. Don't let someone's insecurity and fear take away your peace. You are worthy of a love that lifts you up, not one that drags you down. So don't accept less. Know your worth. Stand strong in your value. And remember that cheaters may be running from their own demons, but that doesn't mean you have to run with them. Cheating is a reflection of their inner turmoil, not your failure. Don't internalize their actions. Heal, grow, and step into the life that is waiting for you. A life full of peace, self-love, and meaningful connections. You don't need to accept betrayal. You have the power to walk away and create a future built on true love. When someone betrays you, it often feels like a personal attack. It feels as though they are saying, "You're not enough." And that message hits deep because we all want to believe that we are worthy of love, loyalty, and respect. We expect that the people who claim to love us will honor us, and when they don't, we question ourselves. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? But the truth is, you are never defined by the actions of someone else, and that is something you need to hold on to. Especially in the moments when you feel the weight of betrayal bearing down on you. You are not what they did. You are not the betrayal, the lies, or the broken promises. You are not the tears you've shed or the heartache you've endured. Those things are simply experiences, not your identity. Too often we let someone else's actions define our worth, and we forget the most important lesson. Your worth comes from within, not from how others choose to treat you. Think about it. Someone who is capable of cheating has already shown you who they are. They've shown you that they are not capable of respecting boundaries, of honoring their word, or of protecting the trust that you placed in them. This is their failure, not yours. And yet, how many times have you asked yourself, what could I have done differently? What did I miss? Why wasn't I enough for them? You've made their betrayal about your shortcomings. But the real truth is that it's about their inability to be honest, to communicate, and to stay true to their commitments. When you place your self-worth in someone else's hands, when you give them the power to make you feel worthy or unworthy, you lose control over your own sense of self. You hand over the reins to someone who isn't worthy of that responsibility. The moment you begin questioning your own value based on their actions, you allow their dysfunction to seep into your life. And let me tell you something, you don't need that. You don't need anyone to define your worth but you. The journey to healing from betrayal starts with understanding that you are whole, complete, and enough exactly as you are. There is nothing you could have done differently to stop someone from cheating. You are not responsible for their decisions or their mistakes. They are the ones who made a choice to lie, to betray, and to break trust. And they did that because of their own issues, not because of a flaw in you. So why are you carrying the weight of their failure? Why are you holding yourself accountable for their choices? The power of letting go of their actions and reclaiming your sense of self is incredibly freeing. When you stop allowing someone else's actions to define your worth, you begin to rebuild your life on your own terms. You start to see yourself for who you really are, a person deserving of love, respect, and honor. You realize that your value doesn't depend on anyone else's opinion or treatment of you. You are worthy simply because you exist, because you are a unique individual with strengths, dreams, and a future to create. This is why it's so important to understand that their betrayal has no bearing on your value. Their inability to be truthful, to show loyalty, to honor their commitments is not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of their inability to live with integrity. And just because they failed in that area doesn't mean you have to fail in the same way by accepting their actions as your fault. You don't have to hold on to the narrative that you are unworthy or undeserving just because someone treated you poorly. That's their story, not yours. The moment you start seeing yourself through the lens of your own worth, you take back your power. You stop questioning if you're enough, and you start recognizing that the right person, the right relationships will never make you feel less than. You will know that the love you give is not a bargain for acceptance. It is an offering of your best self to someone who sees your worth. But you also need to realize that the right person will never put you in a position to question your value. They will never leave you wondering if you are enough. Cheating has a way of shaking your foundation. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and trust. But it's important to remember that you are the one who gets to decide what your future looks like. You get to decide how you heal, how you move forward, and how you redefine what love and trust mean to you. You can choose to rise from this experience, to learn from it, and to build a stronger, healthier version of yourself. Or you can choose to stay in the pain, letting it control you and define who you are. But you don't have to do that. You can choose to walk away from the shadows of betrayal and step into the light of self-worth. Every day that you choose to heal, to forgive, and to move on, you are choosing to reclaim your power. You are choosing to say, I am not defined by what someone else did to me. I am defined by how I choose to move forward. I am defined by my strength, my resilience, and my ability to love myself first and foremost. And when you start to live from that place, when you begin to understand that your value is inherent and unshakable, you stop giving people the power to make you feel less than. You stop letting their mistakes shape your perception of who you are. If someone doesn't see your worth, if someone can cheat, lie, or betray you, that's a reflection of their inability to recognize the beauty and strength within themselves. They are the ones who are lost. And no matter how hard they try to make you feel small, you cannot let their actions diminish who you are. You are strong enough to walk away from anyone who doesn't value you. You are strong enough to set boundaries, to say no, and to create the life and relationships that honor your worth. Understand this. You do not need validation from someone who cannot see the true you. The right people, the ones who are worthy of your time and energy, will love and respect you for who you truly are. You don't have to change yourself to be loved. You don't have to compromise your self-respect to make someone else feel comfortable. The right people will recognize your value without you ever having to prove it. So stop giving your power to people who don't see it. Start living for yourself and let your actions speak to your worth. Let your choices reflect your belief in your own value. You are not what they did to you. You are not the sum of their lies and betrayal. You are stronger than that, and you have the ability to create a future that honors your worth. So stand tall, walk with your head high, and never ever let anyone make you feel less than the amazing person you are. Your worth is not up for debate. And when you truly understand that, nothing and no one can ever take it away from you. Identity in Christ overrules desperation. In a world that constantly tells us to seek fulfillment in temporary things, it is easy to feel lost or desperate for meaning, love, success, or validation. We chase after relationships, careers, possessions, and achievements, thinking that these external things will provide the fulfillment and satisfaction we so desperately crave. However, the truth is that none of these things can truly fill the void in our hearts, because only our identity in Christ can do that. Desperation arises when we try to fill the emptiness inside with things that were never meant to satisfy. It is the result of placing our worth in things that are fleeting and unstable. Desperation often leads us to make choices based on fear or insecurity, rather than confidence in who we truly are in Christ. When we are desperate, we find ourselves seeking approval from others, constantly striving for recognition, or settling for relationships and situations that do not align with our values or our true purpose. In these moments of desperation, we forget the most important truth of all, that we are already enough in Christ. In 2 Corinthians 5:17, the Apostle Paul writes, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old has gone, the new is here." This powerful verse reminds us that when we are in Christ, our identity is no longer defined by our past mistakes, our failures, or the opinions of others. We are no longer slaves to the pressures of the world or the need to perform to earn our worth. We are new creations, adopted into the family of God and given a new identity that is secure and unshakable. This identity is not based on anything we have done or can do, but solely on the work of Jesus Christ. When we fully understand that our identity is rooted in Christ, we are free from the desperation to prove ourselves to others or to chase after things that are temporary. In Galatians 2:20, Paul says, "I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me." This verse speaks to the deep transformation that occurs when we place our trust in Christ. It's no longer about who we were or what we can achieve, but about who Christ is in us. Our identity is found in him, and that identity gives us peace, confidence, and purpose that the world cannot offer. Desperation arises when we forget this truth. When we start to look for our worth in the approval of others or in the things we do, we are essentially saying that what Christ has done for us is not enough. We are choosing to live according to the world's standards instead of the truth of our identity in Christ. When we look for validation from the world, we open ourselves up to disappointment because the world's approval is fickle. It changes based on circumstances, trends, and people's opinions. But when we live from our identity in Christ, we are not swayed by what others think. We know that we are loved, accepted, and chosen by the Creator of the universe, and that is more than enough. When we know who we are in Christ, we stop chasing after things that will never truly fulfill us. We stop chasing after relationships that drain us, jobs that overwork us, and possessions that will eventually lose their value. Instead, we begin to focus on the things that are eternal. Our relationship with God, our purpose in his kingdom, and the impact we can make for his glory. Our identity in Christ gives us the confidence to stand firm in our calling, to live with integrity, and to make decisions based on what will honor God rather than what will please others or make us feel validated. One of the most common areas where we experience desperation is in relationships. Whether it's a romantic relationship, friendships, or family dynamics, we often find ourselves seeking approval or validation from others in ways that are unhealthy. We may feel desperate for someone to love us, to accept us, or to confirm that we are worthy of their time and attention. But when we know our identity in Christ, we no longer have to seek this validation from others. We are secure in the fact that God has already chosen us, loved us, and accepted us as his daughters and sons. In Ephesians 1:04, Paul reminds us of our identity in Christ. "For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. In love, he predestined us for adoption to sonship through Jesus Christ, in accordance with his pleasure and will." We are chosen by God. He loved us before we were even born and has called us to be his own. This is the foundation of our identity. We are loved by God, accepted by God, and chosen by God. We do not need to chase after relationships to prove our worth. We already have everything we need in Christ. Furthermore, understanding our identity in Christ frees us from the need to prove ourselves to others. In the world, we are often told that our worth is determined by what we can accomplish or how much we can give. We are taught to measure success by external markers, job titles, social status, possessions, or the number of people who admire us. But when we find our identity in Christ, we realize that our value is not determined by these things. Our worth is intrinsic and it comes from God alone. We are valuable not because of what we do, but because of who we are in Christ. This understanding shifts the way we approach life. We no longer have to prove ourselves by meeting the expectations of others. We live with confidence knowing that God has already called us His own. Desperation can also stem from the desire to control our circumstances. When we feel like things are out of our control, or when life doesn't go as planned, we can become desperate to make things work the way we want. We may try to manipulate situations or force outcomes that align with our desires. But when we live from our identity in Christ, we surrender control to God. We trust that He is sovereign over all things and that His plan for our lives is greater than anything we could have imagined. We no longer feel the need to grasp at control because we know that God is in charge and that He will work all things together for our good according to His will. In Romans 8:28, we are reminded of this truth, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Our identity in Christ gives us the confidence to trust in God's plan, even when things don't make sense or when we feel desperate. We know that He is working on our behalf, and we can rest in the assurance that His timing is perfect and His purposes are unshakable. Ultimately, our identity in Christ overrules desperation because it gives us peace. Desperation comes from a place of insecurity, fear, and uncertainty. But when we understand who we are in Christ, we are anchored in the truth of God's love, grace, and sovereignty. Our identity in Christ assures us that we are loved unconditionally, that we are forgiven, and that we are secure in Him. This knowledge allows us to let go of the need to control everything, the need to prove ourselves, and the need to chase after things that will never truly. When we live from our identity in Christ, we live with purpose, confidence, and peace. We no longer feel desperate to fill the emptiness inside with things that are temporary. Instead, we find our fulfillment in Christ alone, and we rest in the knowledge that He has already provided everything we need. Our identity in Christ gives us the freedom to live fully, to make decisions based on His will, and to walk confidently in the calling He has placed on our lives. Trust the author, not the chapter. Life is often seen as a story and narrative we walk through day by day, full of moments of joy, sorrow, triumph, and defeat. Every chapter of this story holds its own set of challenges and blessings, but there is one truth we must never forget. The author of the story holds it all in His hands. While we may find ourselves consumed by the details of a difficult chapter, it is the larger picture, the overarching narrative that only God, the author, can see, that we must trust. Trusting the author, rather than focusing solely on the chapter, gives us peace and hope in the midst of the trials and uncertainties that life brings. When we are in the midst of a difficult season, it is all too easy to become fixated on the struggles in front of us. Whether it's a period of loneliness, a challenging relationship, a financial setback, or personal loss, these moments can feel all-encompassing. They dominate our thoughts, emotions, and energy. And while it is important to acknowledge and face the difficulties we experience, we must also recognize that this moment, this chapter, does not define the entire story. It's merely a part of a larger narrative, and like any good story, the chapters